Okay, everybody, can we get going, please? Firstly, I'll just apologise for the late start of this meeting. I don't like starting meetings late. It's completely my fault. I was asking so many questions at the pre-meet. So good morning. Welcome to the Finance and Overview Committee. I'm Councillor Bridget Lay and will be chairing the meeting today with my Vice Chairman, Councillor Gareth Knight. To my right is Democratic Services Officer Amy Pride. Can I remind members that the meeting is being recorded and can also be watched as a live stream or later via the SKDC webcast. It would be very much appreciated if your mobile phones could be switched to silent, please. There's no scheduled fire drill today, so if we hear the alarm, please make your way to the nearest exit to the assembly point on the green at the front of the building. If you wish to ask a question or make a comment, please can I request that you indicate by raising your hand. At full council last week, the political proportionality of the authority was considered. Councillor Graham Gill and Councillor Tim Harrison have filled the 2 vacancies on the committee. So, Amy, do we have any public speakers at all, please?
Thank you. We haven't received any public speakers today.
Thank you. And do we have apologies for absence?
We've received apologies from Councillors Tim Harrison, Councillor Mark Whittington and Councillor Richard Cleaver, and Councillor Matt Bailey will be substituting for Councillor Whittington today. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are any members who have an interest to declare, you can either do this now or at the time during the meeting. So, to confirm the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 24th of July, are there any comments from committee members on the accuracy of the minutes? If not, could I have a proposer and a seconder, please? Okay, Max as a proposer and Gloria as a seconder. And all those in favour, please. Those against? Abstentions? Thank you. So, updates from the previous meeting. The actions are complete. Claire Moses provided us with the detail that we needed from the previous update. We were all emailed that detail, so hopefully you've seen it. So, on to the agenda items. The first one is, let me just find my relevant page, is Councillor Baxter, please, on agenda item 7.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. I'm pleased to report that yesterday, along with the Chief Executive and the Deputy Leader and others, we joined 2 staff from the 2 officers from the Ministry of Communities, Housing and Local Government, MHCLG. Might have got them in the wrong order, but we escorted 2 people from MHCLG around some of our favourite bits of Grantham. We didn't have the time to go all over the district, but we were pleased to arrive at Swinegate, the new development, just at the point that the keys were being handed over to the council, so that's almost finished. We then went across the marketplace and around the town, and were pleased to show the marketplace in all its new glory. Past some of the refurbished high street frontages back here, and then out to Larch Close, where coincidentally yesterday was the first groundworks at Larch Close for new houses and flats that we're building in that area. We then went on to the depot, which is another good news story, so we gave a good impression of ourselves, I'm sure. I'd also like to apologise for the late notice of the consultations on local government reorganisation. These are for reasons that are certainly beyond my control, but time marches on, and the consultations, as hopefully members will be aware, although we've only been told recently, begin in the Deepings tomorrow evening at 4 o'clock, and then the other dates are available. So my apologies to you and other members, Chair, for that. That's all my announcements.
Thank you for that. Just before we move on, can I just introduce Simon Jackson, our new Economic Development Manager. who started 2 or 3 weeks ago. Simon, did you say? And he's hit the ground running. Bless him. Thank you. Over to you then, Ashley, for agenda item 7, please.
Thank you, Chair. Certainly in at the deep end for Mr Jackson. It's my pleasure to bring this report, updating the Committee on the Council's Economic Development Strategy. You'll be aware that the strategy was adopted by the Council in October last year. The strategy looks at 5 areas of focus where the Council is likely to influence the key challenges to economic prosperity in the district, including business growth and job creation, skills development, inclusive growth and regeneration, inward investment, and enhancing the tourism and visitor economy offer. The accompanying action plan sets out the number of activities that the economic development team will carry out over the lifetime of the strategy, and these are split between short-term or first-year activities and those that will be achieved in or by years 3 and 4. Some of the activities have been delayed due to a vacancy in the manager post, but I am delighted to welcome Simon Jackson to the team. This is, as you've said, Chair, Simon's 3rd week in the role, but he's already met with me, he's met with the team, and he's addressing some of the issues, short-term and longer-term, that need addressing. So, despite some of the delay, you can see from the report that there is significant progress made in many of the areas. Some of the particularly notable activities are highlighted in the report. It's recommended that this report merely be noted and that you agree to receive a further report in 6 months' time, when hopefully Simon will be properly settled in, feet under the table, and get up and go. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Do we have any questions? Max.
Thank you, Chairman. Quick question for Ashley, Councillor Baxter. Ashley, are there any areas of special concern? I mean, you referred to delays. I mean, that's inevitable, neither here nor there. Is there anything that is worrying you more than anything else?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I think the pace and deliverability of some of the aspirations, and also it's money again. It's money to its capacity within the team. Even though we've now we have got a full team, haven't we? Yeah, we've got a full team, but capacity within the team, because we've got some big time-consuming projects going forward. Mr. Jackson was keen to say to me the first day, we can't do everything. Which I know, but our aspirations exceed our capability and finance to deliver. Our eyes are bigger than our stomach, if you like. But when we see projects like the museum next door as the kind of final stages of the Future High Street Fund, it is going in the right direction. I'm particularly keen that tourism across the district gets the attention it deserves in all kinds of different ways. But there's nothing. I don't think there's anything mission critical. There's nothing kind of front page of the Grantham Journal or Daily Mail that we can see at this stage, but obviously the Daily Mail and the Grantham Journal have got investigative journalists, and I hope to find out from officers before we find out that way. Let's only have good news in the front pages. Thank you.
Okay, so the report is for noting, and that we agree to receive a further update and refreshed action plan within the next 6 months. So that will be going on the work plan. Okay. So agenda item 8 is for Councillor Knowles, please. No problem. Thank you. Excuse me, Councillor Knowles. Okay. Councillor Turner.
There's quite a few items, Simon, in the appendix that look like they've got your imprint on. Have you had a look to see what needs doing from this economic strategy or development plan?
Yes, I have. I studied it very carefully before I took the job on to make sure there's no Mission Impossible strategy. But I think the point that I made to the leader is the point I'd make now, in that what we're going to do is do a few key things extremely well. Now, some of that might be what's in the plan. There might be things that aren't in the plan that we're going to do. There may be things in that plan that we're not going to do. So decisions will need to be made. But I'm a big believer, and I've got a track record in really hammering down on things really well and having some serious impact, because that's what I'm here to do. So when we return in 6 months, and in fact before 6 months, that will have fundamentally changed. There'll be things in there that we're definitely going to be doing, absolutely. But there'll be things that I would suggest that we're not going to be doing. But yes, I was fully aware and had read it very carefully before I took the challenge on.
Thanks very much.
Can I just pick up on that? Sorry, we don't usually go backwards and forwards on agenda items. So obviously we will be fully informed of all these details, won't we? I know Emma, you do usually keep us informed, but obviously passing over to you now, Simon, then it would be good if we can have updates as and when possible. Thank you very much. So, sorry about that, Councillor Knowles. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Chair. First of all, I would like to thank Emma and all the other people who've been involved in preparing this report and preparing the work that's necessary for the UK SPF. Which a lot of the work has now been done, and we've got an interim report for you now, and we're proposing that you hear a further report in 6 months' time. So it's my pleasure to bring this report updating the committee on the progress made allocating this year's UK Shared Prosperity Fund grant. As you will be aware, this year's UK Shared Prosperity Fund and the Rural Top-Up Grant were awarded to the Greater Lincolnshire Combined Authority rather than to South Kesteven directly. The Mayor's Office subsequently agreed that the funding would be distributed to each of the councils within the Greater Lincolnshire area. This has meant that South Kesteven has been awarded approximately 1.2 million in UK Shared Prosperity Funds and a further 162,000 in Rural Top-Up Funds. The fund priorities remained the same as in the previous 3 years, and a copy of the investment plan was submitted to the Mayor's Office and is appended to the report. It has been brought to this committee before. I'm pleased to be able to confirm that almost all the funding has been allocated to a variety of projects across the entire district. These are listed in the report that you have in the content and in Appendix 2. The report details those projects that have been successful, and officers are working on plans to allocate the remaining 19,000, so we don't have to give it back. I'm sure we'll find some way of managing that as we did last year. The report is recommended for noting, and a further report will be presented at the end of the funding cycle, which is in March 2025. I commend the report to you. Thank you very much. And thank you to all those who've been helping with that. And can I mention Carol Drury in particular, who has been a great help to the US KPF Fund Committee this year and made it a lot more smooth and a lot more easy to follow than it has been in the previous years. Thank you.
Could you turn your mic off, please, Councillor Knowles? Thank you for that. Does anybody have any questions on this at all, please? Councillor Sawyer?
Dysart Park tennis resurfacing, there's no figure given, Philip. I'm looking at page, where are we? Page 42. It just says funding has been allocated to resurface the existing tennis court at the park, but the sum of money is not specified, whereas all other sums are.
David or Emma, are you able to help with that at all, please?
Yes, I can. The amount is £32,120.
Thank you for that. Councillor Steptoe.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's not a question, it's a statement, and I always like to give credit where credit's due. Declaration of interest, I sit on the UK Prosperity Programme Board, but I think under the chairmanship of Councillor Knowles, I think it's done a fantastic job. Councillor Knowles runs a steady ship. I'd like to thank all the officers for their input. Without wanting to, get too grovelly and go overboard, I'll repeat what I've just said. I think it's doing a really good job. So, thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Knight.
Just to echo what Councillor Steptoe said to some extent, I think that it's really noticeable now just how much more sort of strategic and targeted a lot of the grants feel compared to some of the early days, and I think that it's a shame that we don't really know where this scheme is going long term, because I actually think we've kind of nailed it now, right at the time when it's about to close down. Just a quick shout out just to thank officers and members of the board about the Campbell Close play facility, which has been an ongoing thing for decades, is my understanding. I'm very much looking forward to hearing about a date when a spade will finally go in the ground, because I realise there's been various different technical issues, but I think that's great. My son did a football camp over the summer at Harrowby Football Club, so I very much see the issues there to do with parking. So again, it's a very practical use of the money, and I think that overall, where the money can be used to actually benefit the town as a whole, the local residents and people that are outside the area, and genuinely contribute towards the economy of the town, particularly in Grantham. And I appreciate it does feel very Grantham-centric. I realise that, but I do think that it's an excellent use of the money. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Steptoe.
Yeah, what I should have added, apologies, and again I'm genuine about this, that it's a totally non-partisan board. All parties and non-IE independents work incredibly well together on that board, or I think so anyway, and that's massively pleasing to see. I missed that bit out a minute ago. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, if there are no further questions on this, it is for noting, and we'll put it on the work plan for March 26. Okay, so we'll move on. The next report is agenda item 9, which I understand Councillor Baxter is going to tell us about, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Councillor Cleaver has sent his apologies, and I have the privilege of presenting this report on the Turnpike Close Grantham Depot update. I don't want it to sound like an Oscar speech, but I must offer my thanks to Councillor Cleaver, Councillor Baker, to yourself, Chair, for attending the meetings of the, I can't remember what they call, the Overview Board Depot Working Group Society Plan. But also to all the officers involved, particularly Mr Teasdale, Mr Wiles, and a cast of thousands. Yesterday we met some of the site staff and also Freddie, don't know his surname, from one of the senior directors of Lindham, who are keen that the project progresses. The site has made loads of progress since I last went, but I'm told it's all on schedule, and that's great. The report covers the period up to the first week of September and includes the latest financial forecast, identifying risks and latest timetable. The contractor has unfortunately confirmed a 3-week delay due to the delays in the steels being delivered, which, as you see in the report, is down to the liquidation of the steel work manufacturer. That's paragraph 2.4. And also changes to changes to regulation in respect of fire compartmentalisation. I can't tell you the actual changes to the regulations, but I'm sure officers can have a go if you need that detail. In order to mitigate the delay, the mobilisation period has been reviewed and 2 weeks of the delay can be absorbed. So overall there is a 1 week likely delay to the original go live date. There's got to be a better way of saying go live, operational go live, start date we used to call it, or rollout date. There are currently 2 primary risks identified. These relate firstly to the permit application for the siting of waste materials, which is obviously pretty crucial. That's from the EA. I don't think that's been resolved yet, sadly. And the other relates to the connection of utilities, which I would hope is planned in. Yes, so we are at the mercy of the utilities companies, but we do have a schedule for that, but it is a known risk. Right now, there are no anticipated delays any further relating to these risks, and there are no concerns with meeting the new date of rollout date of 1st of December. There will be a soft launch, and then there will be a more formal launch in the new year. Finally, I'd say on the front page, in the decision information, it says which wards are impacted. Grantham Earlsfield, obviously, but all wards are impacted if this depot doesn't go to plan, if it in any way impinges on our abilities to collect 70,000 bins every week, it will affect all wards, obviously. So you are asked to note the content of the report, Chair, and also the progress being made.
Thank you, Councillor Baxter. I've got Mr Wiles, Councillor Turner, and then Councillor Sawyer. Mr Wiles first, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify 2 points that were raised there. The permit itself only affects the siting of waste on the site, so it doesn't impede on the go live of the site itself. It just means for bulky waste collections and fly tipping, etc., we'd still need to retain the skips on the existing location and just mobilise the staff between the 2 sites for that period. So it won't stop the date that's in the report. It just means operationally we'd have to find a slightly different solution until such time as the permit is made available. But the positive on the permit is we're in contact with a named officer from the Environment Agency, and there's backward and forth information being exchanged. So it's just a matter of making sure they're satisfied with the plans and the operational deployment of that site, and once they are, the permit will be forthcoming. So it is a risk, but it's something that's being managed at this moment in time. The other thing, just to be really clear on, the go live of the new site is a self-imposed deadline. It's not a business critical date because we retain the existing location. It's not like we're coming to an end of a lease and we're going to be removed from that site. So if that date slips further, then it's just a date that we've collectively agreed as the date. So clearly we're focused on it, but there is no significant impact. If you remember, one of the big pressures on this was to site the new vehicles for the food waste. They're not coming till January anyway, and basically all they need is a large car park. And as Councillor Baxter knows, having been to the site, there's a lot of tarmac there, there's a lot of surfacing. So even if there's still building works ongoing, we can site the new vehicles on that location without any interruption to the building itself. So we're clearly focused on that day, but if it does slip further, then it's not business critical because we can still operate from the existing location. Thank you.
Okay, and I just want to reiterate there, with me attending the board meetings, as an observer, I know that Kay has been chasing on that permit weekly. She's been having lots and lots of discussions and trying to push that forward, so it's not that it's been left, it's just that the EA haven't been able to do it yet. So hopefully that will come into fruition. Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Chair. Has the steel been procured now from a new supplier or alternative supplier, or is that still ongoing? And is there a cost implication as well because the previous supplier folded? Did we get the steel for the same amount of money, or will there? And also, in the second part of this question, I'm very pleased with the progress of everything, but if it slips further, will there be a further cost implication?
Is it going to be Councillor Baxter or is it going to be Mr Teasdale? Thank you.
So in terms of the steelwork supplier, it was the original supplier that we did end up getting the steelwork from. The cost was still the same. In terms of the risks of the programme slipping further, those risks shouldn't affect the programme. Obviously, it's just the two we've outlined in terms of the permit and the utilities, but we have actually, since writing the report, had the electric supply put in now, so that is all in place, so that's part is null and void anymore. It's just the water which is due to go in, I understand, this week, and then commissioned later on in October.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Sawyer.
Thank you, Chairman. Murray, I think, really covered what I was going to ask. I'd just like confirmation of paragraph 1.1 that it does mean there will be no additional costs and that the £500,000 approved in February was the last addition to the overall budget.
Mr Wiles, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, let's be clear, if I was wanting further funding, you'd be the first to know. There is no request for further funding on this project. Thank you.
And it is a question that has been discussed at a regular basis. So I think the officers have done really well on this. So this is for noting. And we'll get future updates. I do wonder if, once it's all up and running, if we could have a visit once it's all in place. I know we've already put one visit in place for the committee, but it would be quite nice if you were all interested to go and see the site and how great it's going to be.
Would be invited to, as Councillor Baxter describes it, the soft launch. So we're planning 2 launches. One is for the staff and members, and then we're looking for a more formal one once operationally it's settled down. Just also for the committee, we would do a closure report and a kind of final report on this particular project, and that will be coming to your meeting probably in February 26. So I think the board will probably meet in October and November, and we'll bring a further update and a closure report when the time's right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll move on now to agenda item 10, and this is the asset management strategy, corporate property. So, Councillor Stokes, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, in Councillor Cleaver's absence, I am pleased to present the draft asset management strategy for the period 2025 to 2030. Thanks again to Giles Teasdale and Richard Wiles for crafting and overseeing the strategy. This is a medium-term strategy and sets out a framework for managing the corporate property general fund over the next 5 years, and is set within the context of the corporate plan, financial plan and the Council's sustainability aims. The asset management strategy is structured in the following way: strategic context, key asset management priorities, achieving the vision and key actions. There are 11 key actions in the asset management strategy that enable the vision of the strategy to be delivered over a 5-year period. The strategy will be presented to Cabinet on the 7th of October, and any feedback received today will also be provided to Cabinet. Once the asset management strategy has been approved, an action plan will be developed to monitor the implementation of the actions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for that. It's a very interesting piece of work, I find. Has anybody got any questions on this at all? Oh, Councillor Sawyer.
Just, I don't know, a question or an observation, Chairman. It's a 5-year plan, but of course it does overlap with the dreaded LGR. Are there likely to be any implications that we will have to consider at a later date?
Okay, Mr Wiles, thank you.
I think as Councillor Sawyer said, this is a recurring theme. I think as officers and members, it's business as usual for us. We're not we're not curtailing any of the work around the LGR timescale, which may or may not yet be confirmed. So for us, it's very much business as usual. So it deliberately will straddle across whatever date the LGR may be. I think in terms of the asset base itself, if LGR goes forward in the way it's being described, then our assets will be assimilated into the new authority. All those authorities that amalgamate will all have their individual asset management strategy documents as well, which in the main will harmonise with ours, because AMSs across councils are very similar in context and purpose. So at some point in the future they will then be morphed into a bigger AMS over that new property base. But for the moment, all the assets that are under the general fund portfolio are in scope to be transferred across to the new authority. And then after that it will be for the new authority to determine if this strategy remains until the lifespan of it, or it gets assimilated into a different one.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Councillor Sawyer? Okay, so, excuse me. So we're asked to recommend for this to go to Cabinet, and if there's no further questions on this, then do we need to vote? Could we have a proposer and a seconder? Proposer, Councillor Sawyer. Seconder, Councillor Steptoe. All those in favour, please. Thank you for that. Okay, so we're on to agenda item 11, the Maintenance Strategy Progress Report, and it's Councillor Stokes again, please.
Thank you, Chair. This report is an update on the report presented to the committee in February 2025. A maintenance strategy was approved in September 2024, which sets out the criteria for the allocation of funding to deal with the backlog maintenance and, going forward, planned maintenance. The report at paragraph 2.7 sets out the programme of works that has been undertaken across the property portfolio. The works are being allocated utilising the condition survey information and is focused on works that are identified as end of life and requiring immediate attention. Going forward, it is intended that there will be cyclical condition surveys of around 20% per annum in order to develop a planned maintenance programme, and we move away from reactive maintenance. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any questions on this one at all, please? We're all very quiet today. No questions. Councillor Sawyer.
I think this is directly for Paul. It was touched, I think, at our council meeting last week. I hope we are going to look at local businesses to carry out that maintenance whenever possible.
Mr Wiles?
Yeah, I think after the approval of the CPRs last Thursday, members will know the threshold for individual quotations has increased from 10 to 25. That opens up the marketplace significantly for local suppliers, because our interaction with suppliers was they were frustrated by that lower threshold, which meant they would have to put a lot of work into securing works over 10,000 and a penny. So this very much opens the door. The caveat being that cumulative spend is still an issue, so we can't go to the same supplier multiple times because they will breach different procurement thresholds. So, but very much where it's low value work, then we would secure the works of local suppliers where possible. I think you'll see from that list, some of these are significant in their size, so we would still want to demonstrate value for money, and we'd still want to, where possible, go to open tender and invite the best bids. And of course, local suppliers are entitled to bid for works as long as alongside national suppliers. So we'll work within the new parameters, but very much those low value works will be targeted in the local supplier area.
Thank you. So this is just noting the progress in respect to the development of the delivery of this. Oh, Councillor Steptoe.
Yeah, just really quickly, on the programme of works on the Guildhall Arts Centre, finished, brilliant, subject to bell turret repairs. when is the bell expected to be fully functioning, please, Chair? Or Mr Wiles, whoever.
Yes, is off-site, will be coming back in the springtime. The bell itself in the turret hasn't worked for donkey's years, and there's no intention to bring that back into life. However, the other bell, which is in the clock tower, will be end of October. It'll be chiming very loudly very soon.
Fantastic. Louder the better.
Yeah, it'll be when I arrive, when I go home, it'll be chiming. And then when Councillor Baxter presses the button as well. Thank you.
So, agenda item 12 is Leisure Investment Reserve. Oh, sorry, is it this one or?
Sorry, Councillor Knowles, for what reason? Because of your Leisure SK involvement, or? Yeah. I'd have to have a look at the paper. Just bear with me, Chair. Is this report for noting, though?
It's considering the proposed criteria for the allocation of the 500k from the Leisure Investment Reserve and a future update.
I think if it helps, Leisure SK have got no involvement in the allocation of the funding. It's a council-driven initiative, so I don't think Leisure SK. There's obviously a director here as well as Councillor Knowles as David Scott, but I don't believe there's any conflict for them.
Let's just wait for James and Alison, and then we can proceed.
Sorry, that was a long walk from over there. We don't believe Councillor Knowles has to declare an interest on this. I think it's a council-driven decision. Councillor Knowles isn't a member of the committee. He could influence any proceedings on there, but I think, as the report is largely for noting, I don't think he needs to leave the chamber for this one. Obviously, that's a matter for himself, but that would be my guidance.
Okay. So, over to you, Councillor Stokes, please.
Thanks again, Chair. This report has been developed in response to the creation of a Leisure Investment Reserve that was approved at Governance and Audit Committee on the 23rd of July 2025. It is recognised that current maintenance funding is primarily focused on urgent works and little funding is available to support the more cosmetic or decorative works. Customer perception when using facilities can lead to negative feedback, and we know that, due to the limited investment in those cosmetic and decorative elements. It's a great shame, to be fair, insofar as the figures, in particular at Grantham Mears, are absolutely staggering. And you'll be able to read those actually in the journal this week, because I've written them and sent them in. So, notwithstanding the feedback in terms of the cosmetic and decorative elements, and there will always be that, the numbers at the leisure centres are amazing. So to enhance the customer experience and meet the objective of the reserve, external consultants have been engaged to provide a summary of proposed investment based on the condition surveys, but with a clear focus on cosmetic works and decoration. Following the site survey by our consultants, a specification of works will be developed to prioritise the allocation of the 500,000 reserve across 4 main leisure assets. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Turner.
I'd just like to say how pleased I am that we've initiated this fund. I think it's very necessary. There's a little gap in what we were doing as a council, and yeah, it's brilliant. I'm very much in favour of it, and hope to see, as Richard Wiles outlined in the previous meeting, the spend is ongoing in 25-26, so great stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson, then Councillor Bailey, and then Councillor Sawyer.
Thank you very much. I think it's great that you've got this fund allocated, but I'd like to know why we have to employ somebody to tell us what they need doing to them. And how much is this going to cost, and will it come out of the 500 reserve that we've created? Because anybody that can walk in, you can walk to it and you can see that the changing rooms need doing, or they need, you know, the pool needs the live scale taken off it. You don't need a consultant to tell you that. So I just would like to know how much it's going to cost and why do we need it? Thank you.
Mr. Wiles, please.
So just to be clear, the consultants we're using are the ones that we use to provide the condition surveys of the assets, so they've already got a good understanding of each of these locations because they provide it through the condition survey. So it's building on that information they already retain. The purpose of them looking at it is through an independent professional lens rather than the push and pull of different stakeholders telling us different degrees of importance. So we'll all have a view as to what they are, and I think as Councillor Johnson says, some of them are quite obvious, and we've said those in the report as well, in terms of basically where the customer interacts with the building, so it'd be the changing rooms, the toilets, the washing areas, the communal spaces and such like. What the consultants will also do is start to cost those pieces of work up for us as well, so they'll be using their professionalism to start to allocate out where they believe the 500,000 will be prioritised across the four, which of course we'll bring back here at a later meeting for a debate about, but it's just to provide that professional integrity and independence from the council as they're looking at it through the lens of the experts within the field. In terms of the cost, it's about £5,000 or £6,000, but it won't be coming out the 500, it'll be coming out the property services budget.
Thank you. Councillor Bailey.
Thank you, Chair. Just want to echo what Councillor Turner said. I think obviously there was a lot of work that kind of went on behind the scenes between councillors and officers to get this fund created. So I just want to echo my thanks, obviously for this fund, which I think is going to go a long way to improving obviously the centres and the stadium. In 2.4, there's some stats in here. You know me, I love a stat around kind of the usage figures. I'm just kind of wondering what are these usage figures? In reference to, Mears is 445,000. Are we talking people that walk in through the entrance? I'm just kind of curious to kind of how do we measure kind of these numbers? They are useful to know. If I walk in and go to the cafe at the Mears, does that count? If I go to, the AstroTurf and not actually walk in the building, does that count as usage in this number as well? Or if I go visit Grantham Town Football Club and watch a game, does that get counted in these figures as well? So myself personally, I just want to understand kind of where these numbers come from, how accurate they are, what is and isn't in scope in terms of what do we class as usage. Thank you, Chair.
Karen?
Thank you, Chair. So I can confirm that at Leisure SK there's a dedicated customer management system. So basically if you scan in, it will record you. I mean, obviously it's not a catch-all, and we do acknowledge that actually some people won't actually go through reception, but that's the best way that we can capture it. And the system does automatically update some or uplift some of the figures. So for example, if it's a badminton court, it will record 2 people, because it just makes that assumption that 2 people are going to play rather than the 1 person who's counted. So it's as intelligent as the market is currently.
Councillor Bailey.
Thank you. So just on the stadium, could you just mention the stadium here? I assume we have the figures from the stadium in a measurable way. Like, if I attend Grantham Town Football Club, does that count as me using that particular facility? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Chair. I'd have to just confirm that. I do believe it does, but I just need to look and confirm that. So I'm happy that gets recorded as an action. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sawyer.
Thank you, Chairman. I just point out I've had several complaints about Sanford Leisure Centre, but every one of them is about the changing areas. That would suggest if they were dealt with, the residents will be happy and the other areas could be left. And I hope I'm not talking Stamford out of a contribution, but if the focus is there, changing areas done and then move on. As I see it from the complaints, there's no real need to look at any other areas.
Mr. Wiles?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to kind of preempt the answer, but I think in some locations it's blindingly obvious where that investment's needed. I think we have similar complaints coming from Grantham in terms of their changing village and some of the deterioration of the quality of that. So I think it's, without kind of spoiling the ending, I think it's going to be fairly obvious that the changing areas, of probably all of them, are going to need some TLC, and most of this allocation will be going towards those areas. But so I'm hopeful that when we come to you in November, there won't be any surprises in what we're recommending, because I think we've all, as Councillor Johnson said, we've all got eyes and ears and we can all see it for ourselves, but we will have that independence, integrity against it as well. I suppose the only overlap into Leisure SK's world is obviously they are the interface with the customer, so they'll know from their own feedback where the negative experiences are coming from, and hopefully that will align with the other sources of information we're gaining. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Knight, please.
Thank you. Mr. Wells, thank you for the comment about the consultants. I think that it's important to have an objective, independent analysis. I would like to think that they're going to be around at 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning in the 3 centres, because when you wander around those changing facilities during the week, they are peace and harmony. I mean, everything is clean, everything is quiet, and you go on the Saturday morning and that's when you really see the pincher points. And I think that it would be very useful, really, to see the changing rooms at their worst, because any facility is only as good as its worst hour. Just to come back on something that Councillor Stokes said at the beginning, talking about cosmetic, I think it's important to state that when we're talking about cosmetic, we're not talking about painting a few walls or changing a few of the lifeguards' T-shirts. It's actually about reducing the cost and making the facilities more attractive to people that really should be members and aren't members and are not contributing towards the facilities at the moment and just need a little bit of persuasion. And also, fundamentally, to provide a good service to the public, because I think the word cosmetic can often be misinterpreted as being a vanity exercise, and it's not that at all. And I think it's extremely positive that this is happening. I very much look forward to seeing what happens with the actual results. I think I know where I'd spend it. I think a lot of us would have had a similar idea in terms of some of the key areas, but it'll be interesting to see. It'll also be interesting to see how the stadium factors into this as well. That's another matter which I know Councillor Turner, as the chairman of his committee, is looking forward to another 3-hour marathon discussing the stadium coming up soon, I'm sure.
Mr. Wiles.
I also wanted to make the point, which is in the report at 210, is that there is a likelihood that the 500,000 in itself will not be sufficient. Obviously, into budget setting season, so it may be from your committee in November you want to send a message to Cabinet as it puts forward its budget proposals that either this needs to be topped up further or further allocations need to be made against it if you agree with the scale and the ambition of the refurbishment, because it's only, even if you divide it by 4, it's only 125,000. That's fairly good to touch the sides on some of these locations. So I think there may be some disappointment if the money's targeted to some of the other centres at the expense of ones that are left behind. It may be this committee wants to suggest that either further allocations are considered or some more funding goes into this particular initiative. But let's see where we get to in November, then we can pick that conversation up then.
Thank you for that. If we have no further questions, this was for considering the proposed criteria for the allocation of the 500k, and also to agree that we'll have a further update in November, which then we'll look forward to that with any further details, and we can make further decisions at that time if necessary. Thank you for that. So, moving on to agenda item 13, Finance Update Report. So, Councillor Baxter, please.
Thank you, Chair. Again, thanks to the officers that put these together, particularly to Mr Wiles and his team. This is the first budget monitoring report for the current financial year, covering income expenditure between April and July, and is the first forecast position for the year for this financial year. It covers general fund and HRA, revenue and capital. The report was presented and approved by Cabinet on the 9th of September. The forecast position on the general fund is currently underspend due to a number of different variances which are listed at table 2. This is a combination of forecast changes to income and expenditure. This will continue to be monitored throughout the year. There is an emerging concern regarding the expenditure position of the HRA, and I'll continue to work with Councillor Moran, the relevant Cabinet member, and officers to determine the levels of expenditure for repairs and maintenance. It's partly due to a focus on clearing the maintenance backlog, coupled with new requirements as a social landlord. For example, an increased focus on damp and mould in light of AWAB's law and various other changes to legislation. I am mindful that expenditure needs to be within the approved budget levels. Maintenance continues to be a significant cost for both the General Fund and the HRA, and for that reason it is added to the Finance Risk Register. In terms of capital, the only significant variances are the HRA new build, which is below budget due to factors including delays in programme and some abortive schemes. Work continues to identify potential sites for development or acquiring new build properties where there is an identified need or the properties meet the housing demand. I welcome questions about any of this, and I welcome assistance in answering those questions from officers present. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Baxter. Councillor Bailey.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your comments there, Councillor Baxter. In terms of the repair, obviously I think it's clear, I think there's a £1 million variance, so I think we're about £1 million over kind of budget for repairs. I guess, if I understand this correctly, what does that really mean in terms of as we get through the rest of the year? Do we run out of money? Do we have to kind of borrow that money from another kind of HRA fund? Is there anything that we can do now to kind of, the repairs need to happen? I'm not saying that we stop doing the repairs, but is there anything that we can, do to kind of make sure that we have sufficient money for that repairs, as it looks like it will kind of run over kind of budget? Thank you.
Thank you. We have significant reserves in the HRA. Obviously, they're not limitless. We can't keep repairing and repairing. Since 2023, we've had a condition survey that's identified loads of repairs that needed doing, and also we've been catching up on the backlog of voids. As Councillor Moran mentioned at full council, our void turnaround has more than halved in the last couple of years, which is fantastic, and the reason it's halved is because we've been turning them around quicker. But as we encounter more voids, they tend to be houses which have been occupied for longer and therefore haven't had sort of repairs. So this should even out eventually. I'm pleased that we are spending more on repairs, and I'm not overly concerned that we've done more than we anticipated that we would. So yeah, we've got the money, but if this happens every single year for the next 10 years, notwithstanding LGR, then yeah, we would have a problem. But at the moment, I don't see it as a problem. I don't know if Mrs. Allwright or anybody else wants to come in.
I'll just make a comment from a finance point of view. I'm slightly more anxious than Councillor Baxter is, because clearly it's not sustainable. The revenue reserves for the HRA are not that significant. It's the capital side that's more significant. What is something we are working through is there are larger underspends on the capital side, and it may be that the allocation between capital and revenue, we've not quite got it right in this budget framework, so it may be there are some offsets we can make against the capital that we can are being compensated for the revenue overspend. So we need to pick that through. I think, as Councillor Baxter says, the other bit of work that needs to be done is how much of this is catching up the backlog, and therefore it's a one-off cost that we can bear, and how much of it becomes the new norm on repairs and maintenance. And Alison will tell you better than anyone that there's a significant challenge and new legislation coming in. That means our repair budget probably needs to increase going forward, but there'll be difficult choices around that in terms of what then needs to give on the capital side to make this affordable on the revenue side. So it's a complicated picture, and it's going to take more unpicking before we can give you a definitive position. What we can't do is sleepwalk into an overspend. So I'm really clear that we will come back to council. If we believe that budget is not set at the right level to achieve the outcomes of the HRA, then we'll come back to council and reset the budget to make sure that officers can raise orders within a new operational boundary. We can't allow overspends to occur without a consequence, because that's poor management. So we will come back to you and reset it. The challenge will be how can we afford that new level of expenditure if that does become the new norm, and there will be difficult conversations we'll need to have with members about expectations around that, because it isn't sustainable, and the HRA has to have a 30-year solvent plan, and on the levels of expenditure that's not going to be achievable at this rate. But I'm hopeful that this is a bump in the road, as Councillor Baxter describes it, and we will come down to a better level of spend once we've dealt with that backlog. Thank you.
Did that answer your question, Councillor Bailey?
Good, thank you.
Okay. Are you okay, Emma? Okay. If just one moment. There's who wants to? Sorry, I couldn't see your hand, Alison. Sorry, Alison, and then Councillor Sawyer.
Thank you. Obviously, I just wanted to come in with some context, completely support everything that Richard has said. We can't just keep overspending, but we do need to manage the number of repairs we've got. So currently, we have 3,500 repairs that we need to complete on properties, and we get about 200 new repairs raised each week. Those numbers have reduced by 600 since March. The team are able currently completing more than they're receiving in a week, and we've got 2 contracts that we've just awarded contracts to support the team with undertaking those repairs. We would hope that in the long term the expenditure will reduce, but we have got to clear this backlog of repairs that we've got in the system, because not only, that's what the regulator expects us to do, and also we should be providing, houses that are fully repaired for our tenants to live in. But from a capital side, at the minute, we do monitor performance on a monthly basis. So from a decent homes perspective, which is what we're expected to meet from a capital side, we're currently achieving 99.76%, so we've only got 14 properties that are currently failing to meet decent home standard. But I would just add to that, we've got approximately 160 where people have refused the works, which then, as Councillor Baxter said, that does then increase the cost when they get to voids, because they haven't had works undertaken on them at the point they should have had. We don't know what the new decent home standard holds for the council, so we'll have to wait for the feedback from government. And then we've obviously got the introduction of AWAB's law from the 1st of October, which has really strict timelines that the council needs to stick to. So again, there's that unknown, which is why we just need to keep working on it, so we've got a clear picture of what those costs will be throughout the year. But as I say, I completely support Richard. We can't just we can't walk into an overspend position because of the impact that'll have on the reserves. Thank you.
Councillor Sawyer. Thank you, Alison. Sorry.
For Councillor Baxter, I think, in addition to the expenditure that's already been detailed, what else can we do to ensure that SKDC money is spent within SKDC and does not disappear into the coffers of the new authority that will be set up under LGR?
Councillor Baxter.
Well, we've started doing our budget preparation for next year, which you will all be involved in because you're on this committee and because you're on full council, and because we want you to. There is in loads of authorities across the country this tension between let's spend it all before they grab it, which I don't think is the best way to serve residents, and beware of people grabbing it. So there's got to be a fine line. I mean, I still want to see the Deep and Leisure Centre reopened or replaced. That's not the kind of expenditure that you can drop in at the last minute to a budget process, and it's not the sort of thing that we could sensibly afford from our reserves. I think what I'm saying is I'd never get away with it, despite loads of support within this chamber and beyond. So, yeah, I recognise the problem, and I don't know if Mr. Wiles or anybody else wants to comment. I mean, it's public money. It's public money on the day before the change to a new authority, and it will remain public money the day after. So if there's a risk that someone in Essendine gets for money rather than someone in our side of the border, that risk will remain. I don't think we would want the money to be badly spent. We would want it to be spent in a way that benefits our community. And when I talk about our community has never been respectful of the arbitrary line drawn by the Saxons. Do you want to say anything else, Mr. Wells?
Never turn down an opportunity. I think there's an article in the Government Chronicle that's saying 151s up and down the country are having this same tension because they're all trying to follow the role of the 151, but within each authority there are conversations like this being had about let's spend all the money. It's a funny use of words before they grab it, because of course they are us. We are part of the new council. So if you took an extreme example, if 4 councils merge and they all burn their reserves down before they amalgamate, guess what? That new council is going to struggle from day one. It's going to have real hard decisions to make about cutting services because it's not going to have any strong balance sheet. So there is an expectation that all councils within the LGR framework will act responsibly and use their money wisely, because it's to the benefit of all our residents. Irrespective of whether it's South Kesteven or South Lincolnshire Council, it's the taxpayers' money, and we need to be responsible with it. I think in terms of the budget setting, we're very much following the corporate plan and the Cabinet's lead as to where those priorities are. So there'll be no, I don't anticipate any surprises in how we manage that money. We've just had a conversation about reserves and how we need them for the HRA. So we've got to be very careful about setting ourselves ambitions to spend money on whilst we can, because we'll always have these pressures as we see every year within our budget cycle. So that's the only sort of context I'd want to give around that. Thank you.
Just one moment. Did you want to come back on that, Councillor Sawyer?
Yes,
and then Councillor Steptoe.
Simple one, I think. Are we keeping a close eye on the finances of the councils we're hoping to join with, which may inform decisions about our expenditure in the years leading up to LGR?
So sorry, just from my point of view, the work we're doing is baseline data across our recommended models for our LGR groups. And that baseline data is capturing our balance sheets, our contract spend, our staffing groupings, our investment levels, our debt levels. So that's all being captured now. That will give us a stable baseline of which the modelling can then be undertaken. So the short answer is yes, because it's all being captured as part of the data gathering that's underway at the moment.
Councillor Steptoe.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm so genuinely very pleased that the sort of debate in the chamber has moved on from just a few months ago, when terms like scorched earth policy was being used by a previous member of the committee. Now, again, I can't resist this as a former history teacher. You know, scorched earth policies have been talked about for centuries, and it's talked about by Adolf Hitler from March 1945 onwards until his death in the bunker on the 30th of April. Now, I am coming to a point, Chair, so please bear with me, as it were. Scorched earth policy, for anybody that's not sure what it means, is just to hell with it, burn everything down. And in those terms, during the Battle of Berlin, it was destroy any resources that could be used by German civilians so that the invading Red Army couldn't use them. So an absolutely nihilistic, destructive mentality. And, you know, I couldn't believe what I was hearing a few months ago in this committee. This is public money. You know, I'm making these comments fully in the context of supporting what Councillor Baxter and Mr Wiles have said. You know, the sheer recklessness from certain councillors about public money, which will, as Mr Wiles has just said, remain public money when we change authorities. If we change authorities, where a lot of officers that currently work for SKDC will continue to serve the public in that new authority. So I'm really, really pleased that the current debate about the way forward, pending LGR, is much more temperate and moderate than it seemed to be even just 2 or 3 months ago. And once again, and I'm really not toadying, I say what I think most people know that, I just say it how I see it, and once again I would like to thank the administration for, its serious and competent work with the Council's finances. Thank you.
Thank you. And we are straying into LGR, which this is about the HRA account and the budget at the moment. So, and I missed Councillor Knight. I'm really sorry, Councillor Knight. Over to you.
Thanks. A couple of things. I think, Councillor Stephen, your knowledge of the origin of the phrase "scorched earth" is probably greater than the person that used the phrase, because I think that, to be fair, his use of the phrase was more about just spending the council coffers, as Humberside County Council did when they were abolished, for example. So I think that the offence that you took was possibly more based on your excessive knowledge of that specific phrase than what it was actually intended as. I do think we should probably have some sort of equivalent of a swear box every time someone mentions LGR, because we did say about a year ago the last thing we want to do is spend nothing but the next 2 to 3 years talking about LGR, and it seems to be coming up in every single agenda item regardless. I just think that I think, as Mr Wiles has said, you've just got to carry on regardless, because we genuinely have no idea what's going to happen. And I think that the endless speculation about LGR is just eating up time that we could be spent doing other things. The other point, Alison made the comment earlier on about 140 refusals of essential repairs to comply with legal requirements. I'm not on the Housing Committee. I've been ribbed about this by various members of the Housing Committee before for my ignorance on this topic. Why on earth can't we evict 140 people if they're refusing permission? Kick them out, sell the properties from under them, stick them on the streets. I just think that if 140 people are effectively making our properties illegal and costing the taxpayer an absolute fortune, because our overspend is roughly about £300 per property that we own, which in itself doesn't sound like that much. So if there's 140 properties that are doing this, can we legally just kick them out? Because they're surely in breach of their tenancy. Thank you.
Back to you, Alison, please.
Thank you. No, we can only legally enforce when for gas compliance. A lot of the time people refuse works. We get refusals from elderly people, and sometimes that's because of the upheaval. So the refusals, I think, might be replacement kitchens, replacement bathrooms. So at the minute, the Decent Home Standard says that, I might get this the wrong way round, a kitchen has to be replaced after 20 years and a bathroom after 30 years. But if they're still in good condition, then people will say, well, I don't want them to be replaced because I'm just happy to keep what I've got. In the new Decent Home Standard, they're actually removing the age compliance section from it, so a kitchen will have to be in good condition, recognising that some people just don't want to have those major components replaced. So it's not necessarily having a significant impact on the quality of the property, because when we get it back at void stage, we'll replace the kitchen then under the new Decent Home Standard if it needs replacing. Thank you.
Did you want to come back?
Yeah, just vote. Thank you. I think that I don't know what the Housing Committee does. I'll be honest with you, as a step out. I don't follow your committee. I would be interested just to hear about this kind of issue, because I do think if a very small number of properties are causing an enormous cost to the taxpayer, I think that is a major problem. And yeah, I accept the fact that someone not wanting the bath repaired because it's a bit of a faff. I can understand that, but I certainly think if it's going into the realms of safety and the house is becoming unsafe, then I think that we should kick them out, put them somewhere else, whether they want to or not. They are tenants, it's our property.
Perhaps you'd like to attend one of the housing committees. As an observer. Alison, would you like to come back on that, please?
Thank you. Yeah, if we had houses that weren't safe, then obviously we'd work with those tenants to ensure, because they need to be living in a safe property. So, as I said earlier, we can force access for gas safety, because that is obviously putting tenants at risk if they haven't had their boiler serviced on an annual basis, which is a council we need to do. The 120 170, whatever it was, 160, 100, whatever the number is that don't, I haven't got the data there, that don't meet the decent home standard. That's what the tenants have chosen, and it is because they don't want it. Sometimes the decent homes focuses on the major components, so it's new roofs, new doors, windows, kitchens, bathrooms. So as I said, we would replace them when those properties become void. It doesn't necessarily increase the cost associated with that property. It's just we're actually just delaying when we actually incur that expenditure to put those replacement components in if they need replacing when the properties are void. Thank you.
There's Councillor Bailey, then Councillor Turner, and Councillor Steptoe. Is it okay for you to wait? You didn't want to come back on something Councillor Knight said.
I do.
Okay. Sorry. Would you mind if I took Councillor Steptoe next? Thank you.
Thank you very much. You beat me to it, Chair, and I would give Councillor Knight an open invitation to any housing committee meetings. We live under the rule of law, and thank goodness we do. You only have to look across the Atlantic to start seeing the alternative, and Putin's Russia, and I could go on and on and on. So we all get frustrated by law from time to time, but we live under the rule of law, and I do, you might not believe this, Councillor Knight, but I do have just some sympathy with what you've said, but it really is nowhere near as easy as that under the law. And I could start getting very political about you having 14 years in government to change it. I'll stop that one there. But yeah, it is nowhere near as straightforward as you and many others and me partly would want it to be. There we go. And again, yeah, please come and see the Housing Committee in all its glory. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Bailey and then Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Chair. Just go back to the HRA capital and the 8 million kind of underspend. I think, you know, if I'm right here, you know, fundamentally what this means is that, you know, we're going to have, I'm not going to say a shortage, you know we don't have enough homes, we've got a housing list and a waiting list, but fundamentally not building, you know, and consuming this 8 million means that people have to wait longer. I think that's what this is, you know, telling me. And I just wondered kind of, you know, what were the reasons that these projects are being kind of, you know, delayed? You know, is these planning problems, you know, where is the bottleneck in the process? You know, I just wondered kind of, like, looking at this kind of objectively, you know, is there a backup plan here? You know, can we look at buying off plan? Is there any alternative to, you know, actually commit and spend some of this money and get people in homes rather than kind of an ever-longing kind of housing list? Thank you.
I think quite a lot of that is already being looked at, Councillor Bailey, but I'm going to refer to Alison, if we may, who has more knowledge of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Some of the delays have been down to when we've actually been able to start projects. So Larch Close, we had to revisit the site because the flats were going over the drainage, so the site needed shifting up slightly so that we could avoid all of the additional costs that would have been associated with that. When it comes to buying properties off plan, the government used to have a restriction on how many we were able to buy off plan. They still want you to build and buy off plan, but they've recently lifted that restriction. So we do get approached regularly by developers saying, oh, do you want to buy properties from us? But we have to then assess, are they in the area that people want to, where the demand is? Do they meet the demand that's on the register? We have been in discussions with one developer, but they've had to go back and amend the Section 106 agreement because it included shared ownership and affordable housing. So they were having discussions as to whether that could just be amended to affordable housing. That's now been agreed, but those processes take quite a long time. Those discussions take a significant amount of time. We had the site at Gorse Rise, yeah, which we obviously had to pull the planning permission on that because we identified there were restrictive covenants on it, which would have made building there challenging. So we've now built into the process that we will check whether there's any restricted covenants on site before we actually start progressing with sites. So there are a number of sites that are in the pipeline. It's just they can take a long time to actually get through. That it's not just the planning process, it's all of the pre-works that we have to do on those sites, getting them designed, reviewing is that where the housing need still is. A good example with Larch Close, there were 2 4-bed detached properties on that site. We actually had those amended to 2 2-bed fully adapted bungalows because we have a complex needs list, and I frequently have to buy properties off the open market to adapt to meet the needs of those people. So now we have a look when we're developing sites, actually can we put adapted properties on there, so then that's meeting the needs of different people across the district. Thank you.
Is that a reply on this discussion here, Councillor? Yes, okay. Sorry, Councillor Turner.
The other thing is about the pipeline for new builds is that wherever we build these houses, they are going to be next or very close to existing houses, and like planning applications, wherever, there's always some resistance. And I've got to say that sometimes, for whatever reason, the resistance is from the ward members, because if there's a kind of some sites are more easy to develop than others. We don't have any ancient Indian burial sites within the district, but sometimes speaking to residents and community members and even councillors, you'd think we did.
Councillor Turner, thank you for being very patient.
If there wasn't a little quotation, headline grabbing, which we're going to go into the papers from this meeting before Councillor Knight spoke, there is one now. Probably not a good idea to suggest throwing 140 families on the streets through non-compliance reasons, but I do. I think I see where you're coming from. Having been involved in a resident's case where they were trying to get a new kitchen fitted, which hadn't been done for 20 years, and how frail that couple were, and the amount of times it took to try and arrange it, and they'd have to move everything out the kitchen so it could happen. But they were very frail, and one of them fell over and broke their arm trying to do it one time. It is quite hard, or a lot harder than you think when you're trying to improve an old property. So I have a lot of sympathy for the work that our council team does in these matters, and I just thought I wanted to say that.
Thank you very much. I think we've had quite a good discussion on this. I think there is concern about the HRA budget. Rightly so, but we'll look forward to the work that's been done on this to see where that takes us, and thank you all for taking that forward for us. So the next agenda item is actually St Martin's Park, which we will have to go into private session for. So I'm proposing that we talk about the work programme next, and then we can go back to item 14, if that's okay with everybody. And obviously we have to vote to go into private session. So can we now take the work programme and discuss that, and then go back to item 14, if that's okay with everybody. Mr Wiles?
So just from my perspective, the Turnpike Close won't be a closure report in November because the project will still be a live project, so that will be an update report. I think I've committed to come back in November with the leisure investment criteria proposals, so that if you're able to add that on as well, that would be appreciated. The HRA will pick up in the Q2 budget monitoring report, so I don't think that needs to be a separate item. It feels like I committed something else, but perhaps I don't. Perhaps I'll shut up, otherwise I'm just creating work for myself. So, but if the record shows I did say something else, no doubt Amy will pick it up. Thank you.
So at the moment in November we have Turnpike Depot update, Q2 budget monitoring report, local council tax support scheme proposal, discretionary council tax payment policy and discretionary housing payment policy and taxi licensing fees. Is there anything anybody else feels that should be on the November report?
Thanks. On taxi licensing fees, could we perhaps expand the scope of that to include all fees and charges? Because last year we had a bit of a debate about several fees and charges, and I think there was a recognition that some of these things had sort of just come through history and have never really been looked at in depth. And it'd just be useful, if we're going to be looking at specific taxi fees anyway, to look at the entire list and try and break that down just for members' clarity as to what we are mandated to have a charge for, what is a set national charge and so on, because I think there was a little bit of confusion around that last year. Thanks.
Mr. Wild?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say, the budget joint OSC that meets in January considers fees and charges as part of that debate ahead of going back to Cabinet for their draft recommendations. So it is captured in that meeting. We're obviously in the middle of budget setting, but we need to stay in contact with Cabinet because we've not yet presented any indicative findings from an officer perspective, and then of course Cabinet will have its own views of fees and charges. I'm not sure we'll be ready in November to present the draft fees and charges for 6-7. Feels a bit too early for me, but we can certainly remind the committee of the ones that are discretionary for this council to consider and the ones that are mandatory set or nationally set that are outside of the scope of our control. So the committee are aware of the difference between the two. But in terms of specifics of bus stations, markets, things like that, I'm not sure we'll be ready in November, and certainly we need to make sure Cabinet are comfortable with anything that's presented, because obviously at that point it's in the public domain. Thank you.
Is that okay? Okay. Added to November, we need to put in the Leisure Investment Reserve review, don't we? Update, please. And then just to note, going forward for March 26 is Economic Development Strategy Plan, which is a 6-month review, and the UK SPF, which is the 6-month review, which I understand Amy has already taken note of. Okay, so if there's nothing else for November that anybody else would like to go to, then if we could go back to item 14, St Martin's Park, and if I just read to you, the exclusion of the public and press is where we vote to go into private session. Under section 100A4 of the Local Government Act 1972, the press and public may be excluded from the meeting during any listed items of business on the grounds that if they were to be present, exempt information could be disclosed to them as defined in the relevant paragraphs of Schedule 12A of the Act. Could I therefore have a proposal that we go into private? Gloria, seconded by Councillor Knight, and all those in favour, please. So that's unanimous. Thank you.